welcome to Moment of Truth. My name is Nadia Ashon and my co-host.
David Body.
And today on our program, we'll be talking about college. And we have the privilege and honor of introducing to you two of our wonderful guests. We have Elder Pia and Deacon Kellum. And so we'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. So we start with Elder Pia.
Thank you. I'm a Christian, a follower of Christ, a husband and a father of four, with the first one in college, I think a junior. I'm still getting to terms with those. And I'm a member of the Church of Pentecost. So that's a basic, unless you want me to add more. I had my first degree in Ghana, which is now the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology with a bachelor's degree, and then has a master's degree over here in Johns Hopkins.
Thank you so much for being our guest. Deacon Caleb, please.
Hello, my name is Caleb, Deacon Caleb. In this circumstance, I want to also identify myself as a follower of Christ. As one of one wife, Nancy, I want to give you a shout out. And two lovely boys with one on the way.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
congratulations.
Actually, tomorrow is our 5th anniversary, so I want to also take this opportunity to wish my wife a happy anniversary.
Awesome.
Thanks for all these wonderful years, and many more to come. I currently work for Walgreens in one of their specialty branches, which is in the Johns Hopkins. We deal with a whole lot of, I'm the pharmacy manager over there. We deal with a lot of specialty meds that most people need, and also basic things that they also need. So I've been doing this for about 7 years. And by the grace of God, I'm also a member of Adonai Church of Pentecost. So if you happen to be in the Columbia area, where our doors is always open, we meet at Mellenbrook Road, 9357 Mellenbrook Road, which is Tender Hill Elementary School. So I think that will do for now.
Okay,
Wow,
thank you so much.
So we're going to be talking about college today. So just a background, want to see what was your college journey like? Who would like to go first? Tell us about your college journey. How did it start? Where did you start? What happened? What exciting thing happened? What not very exciting things happened? Just tell us a little bit about your college journey.
Let me start. Maybe he had more of the education here, so I think the relevance one should come later. As I said, I had my first degree in Ghana, and as in Ghana, that time we had the O level and the A level, which is, I think, stand for the high school equivalency. And then when you're fortunate to be able to go to the A level and pass, automatically your goal is to get into the university. So you set up you apply to what, but prior to that, you decide on which program you would like to take. I was with the maths engineering side, so I went into the engineering field and graduated with electrical engineering. After 4 years, stayed 1 year over, they call it TA, teaching assistant, before starting work with Ghana Telecommunication. But always, prior to going to college, I knew that I would be in the electrical field. I'm that kind of person who is inquisitive with the electronic gadgets and stuff. So that's how it went in. My education was geared towards. Yeah, basically, my interest is what led me to that field.
Thank you.
So I think I have a peculiar experience where I had a chance to do my first, I'll call it 12 years of education in Ghana. So from all the way from class 1, or sometimes we call it P1, so we to JSS 3, and then moved on to Kumasi High School, where I also did 3 years, graduated in 2003. So it was right after high school that I decided that I wanted to continue my education outside the country. So I can give advice to that. What I had to do at that time was to, first of all, I had to take my SSC, and after that, I did the SATs too. And the SATs, most people didn't realize that you could do the SATs from Ghana, and based on all the scores and qualifications, you can apply here. As a matter of fact, not only I wasn't the only one who did it. Most of my cousins also did the same thing. So we usually go to school till SS3, and the reason why we all did it was some of my cousins had already done that. So we already knew that that was an opportunity that we could take. So basically, once most of us were done with SST, we knew we're going straight for the SATs. So at that time, I think I contacted my uncle who was in the US. He sent me the SAT books back to Ghana, and I was like, hey, I got to study this really well. And I think there were a lot of resources also in Ghana, in Kumasi. And I went to one of those centers, and they helped me. And I took my SATs, and by God's grace, I got accepted into a college in the US, which was at the time Virginia Union University. And we came, and I think I spent about a year there. Then I transferred to VCU. And at VCU, I think that was in 2008. I got my bachelor's in biology. Then right from there, I continued to Mass College of Pharmacy, which is in Worcester. That is where I got my PharmD degree. Yeah. So I think I have a good blend of the Ghana experience and the America experience. So that's what I was saying. Mine is quite peculiar.
So if you just started watching the program, this is Moment of Truth, and we are talking about college, and we are talking about the plans that get you to where you need to be. So we have two different unique plans that got them to the destination of being successful and being able to get education that they needed to do the job that they are currently doing. So we really are very grateful for that opportunity. So thank you so much.
Yeah, remember to share and also send us your thoughts and suggestions. So we're talking about college education, but we haven't said or agreed whether it's even important at all to go to college. Is it only important in the U.S.? Is it important at all? Or is it important everywhere? Is it something that we need to strive for? Or are we okay with our college education? What do you want to say about that? Is it important at all?
I would definitely go with it's important. But what makes it important is where you're trying to get to. The way college is designed in such a way that when you start, there are some general education classes that you take. So you'll be taking your psychology, your sociology, your maths, your English. All those things are basic things that most people will need, even if they don't want to even further go into the higher echelons of education. Most people will have different routes. Some will have the routes that will want to lead them to a trade. And that is why I think in the US we have the community college concepts that came about. There are so many areas that whatever education that you get, you can go into that route. And it's also the route where you are able to go beyond the general education and decide that I want to do or further my education in this area, be it nursing, engineering, computer science, whichever one those are. So what education would do is it will introduce you to a certain level of thinking, have a general understanding of life. So I will be one of those advocates who will say that education, going to college, is definitely important. At a minimum, get an associate degree. You don't have to go all the way, depending on where you want to go to. All what you might need is an associate degree. If you want to go into welding or some of these, being a chef and those kind of things, at least it gives you a certain level of thinking, a certain level of understanding, a certain level of worldview that at least will help you live your life and at least be successful. So definitely, at a minimum, going to college is extremely important that everybody, I think, should strive to go.
For Elder, I want you to take it on the angle as a parent.
Oh, and as an adult.
Parent, yes. What will you be? How do you train your children so that way your value of education is impacted to them? Because sometimes when we don't impact that value to the kids don't think education is important. So when it's time to go to college, they started playing like, do I have to? Do I want to? But how does it help you to train your children in that direction?
Let me start with the fact that my kids, they know it's not an option.
Okay. Amen to that.
Not going to college is not an option.
Okay.
It's we make plans towards it. But what I want to say is that next to your relationship with Christ, getting an education is the next thing you can do. The next best thing for every person. And as my brother said, the college education, it's not necessarily focuses you on the field that you want to practice, but it opens up your mind. You are not scared of information. there's a lot of information that you have to be receptive towards, to be able to read, to be able to assimilate, to be able to understand. So education in itself opens up your mind into the world, to be able to, if you're in college, whether those who go into advocacy or Christian advocacy, apologetics in college, you have to be reading. And that's what education does. It opens up your mind to so many things that you are not scared of information. So as I mentioned, my kids, it's not an option. They are going to college. Either they equal what myself and my wife had, or beyond that. Exactly. Ours is the minimum for them. So they have their goals.
That is
Awesome.
good. And I think that is definitely important, because each person needs to make sure that they cultivate the environment of learning. And if you don't do that, your kids will definitely grow up not appreciating that concept and that value. I know in Ghana it's something that everybody knows. You have to go to school. There's no two ways about it. But here, one of the things that I realized that some kids who said after they finish their high school, they're like, oh, I'm done with school. And so if the parents are okay with that, then they only did high school and they are okay. But if the parents are not okay and they are encouraging them, I think that's where they are motivated to do more.
I think I want to tackle this also from a worldview.
Okay.
So right from a very tender age, your kids, they begin to form a certain worldview. And as parents, you are in a very unique opportunity to shape whatever worldview that they'll be having. So I like what my honorable elder is saying, that once those opportunities arise, and as it arises in the everyday things that you're doing, you striving to go to school, you coming home. Sometimes I'm home and I'm in my study and my kids are around me. I'm like, hey, come and put your chair here and study too. So all those things, that is what they grew up seeing. I, for one way or the other, you'll be influenced by a worldview, whether you like it or not. Me deciding to go into the field that I wanted to go into, I always had an idea that I would go into the medical field. It was because of the people that I looked up to. And they were within close circles of me, my uncles, my cousins who were a little bit older. So those were the kind of things I grew up seeing. So one way or the other, we have the chance to influence the worldview of our kids. And my father, I always recommend this man because he didn't go to school as much as he had wanted. But he had a very common understanding that from the get-go, even though I didn't get these opportunities, this is the kind of path I want my kids to follow. And I grew up every day knowing that this is the path my dad wanted me to go, and he would not fail at it. So as much as he tried, even when there were times in my college education that I didn't do as well, I always knew that my father expected high of me, even though I'm like, you really didn't go to school that much. So how come you expect this of your child? And I realized that it was, number one, because he had been trained as a Christian, and number two, he had educated his worldview also, and he sought to influence that with kids with that. So worldview, we get to shape it right from the get-go. And let's start doing that way early so that our kids will know that college, you are going, whether you like it or not. You have to indoctrinate it in them. And by so doing, you've won half of the battle.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And so if you just tune in, we are talking about college, and we are talking about plans that you need to put in place. So indoctrination, worldview. Those are plans that you need to put in place when it comes to your education, because if you don't have it in place, then you're not successful, because you're not planning to succeed in your future. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So talking about worldview and talking about not being scared of information, let's look at it this way also. So we have Christians, some parents, some church leaders, some young people who have this notion that when young people or maybe people in general go to college and they come back, they lose their faith, they leave for college as Christians, they come back and they don't know what they are. So what have you got to say about that?
I think that might be a misconception, because even outside of college, if you look at statistics, it could be the same. So it's not the influence of college that per se is gearing or moving some kids out of the church. But as parents, we have a duty to inculcate in them as they are growing up the fear of the Lord. That this is, and especially my kids, I tell them in school, even in elementary school, they'll be told this and this, but this is the truth. They'll be told this. My boy in college, I sent him a podcast of one of apologetic, Dr. Ravi Zachariah, to listen to, just in college, because that's where the questions will come, and with philosophy and those kind of things, and it helps them to be able to assimilate. So you start with them by letting them understand that out there's information, but there's false information, the truth, and you have to know the distinction, and then it's going to come. Even it starts at elementary school, and that's where they will counter. Though they are taught this is what the truth is. And at times they come back and tell you, oh, this is what our teacher said, this is what some other friends said. And we know that this is what we've taught us, and we understand. So you should help them, even right from infancy, putting that mindset in their mind. That, hey, the world is there, yeah, we are in the world, but we are not of the world. And every thought that we hear, everything that we see, every information that is out there, we should see it by the word of God.
It is sad. It will be a sad thing for some of our young men whom we spend the time teaching to go to college, and all of a sudden they forget that they are even Christians. Yeah. But the sad truth, and it's very sad for me to say this, is that some of our young people are convinced when they get to college that there is something else out there. But the good thing is that once we had the opportunity to introduce them to Christ, that seed, that is why the Bible is so right when it says, train up the child the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. College is a very dicey period where people are searching. For the first time, they get to be at a place where nobody will tell them, let's go to church. They get to be in a place where there is no consequences for not going to church. So our first duty as parents is to make sure that we pray through with our kids, to make sure that their first introduction to Christ will be from us. Because we have to deal with the personalities of our kids. There are some people, once they make up their mind a certain way, it's very hard to convince them. So if you know that you are bringing up such a child, that you know that your work is cut out from you right from the get-go. If you know that whilst you have leverage, use it.
Yes.
All right? Before they go to school and they come and they begin to tell you other stories. And now you have to pray really hard, and you have to
fast and pray.
Fast and pray.
Yes,
so why don't you fast and pray whilst they are with you?
Yes.
Why don't you take your time to teach them the word of God and let them have understanding? The only reason that we'll be able to lose some of our young people is when they don't have understanding of when they were at home. If they were doing it out of compulsion, if they were not doing it with no understanding, that is where the problem really is. So I want to take this time to appeal that if we really don't want our kids to be influenced by these outside forces, and trust me, they are there. Yeah.
Yes,
we need to make sure that we are walking the walk, and we are not only talking it, but we are also walking it.
Correct.
Because one thing that will make a child of a Christian home consider leaving the faith is when they see hypocrisy at home. Yes. As much as there will be a lot of challenges at home, we want to present the reality to our kids. Once they begin to see those kind of things, you are an elder, you are a deaconess, you are standing in front of the church, you are telling them this. But when I come home, I see you beating mom, I see you talking to each other in a very nasty way. They begin to be like, you and your God, you guys are not serious.
That's true.
And that is the number one driver away of our kids when they go to college.
Yes.
They'll be like, now, hey, I have my freedom. I'm going to run it. And by this time, they're already old, so they can really talk back to you. So please, if you really want to influence it, I want to introduce a word called modeling. You want to model Christ at home. You want to make sure that whatever you're talking about, if you want your kids to pray, make sure you are praying too. Yes. If you want your kids to read the Word of God, make sure you are reading and they are seeing you. All these things, some of them you have to do them strategically and purposefully so that they will see you do some of these things. And trust me, if they see these things, more than likely they will be going out there. My dad always tells this story, and I find it funny when I share it. when I was in college, he wanted to come visit me in Kumasi High School. And he said the first thing he got to the campus and he saw a lot of people doing all kinds of things. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually in high schools on a Saturday, everybody either doing washing, some will be playing games.
No
So he said he
classes.
got to the campus and he saw different things going on. Some were playing games, some were washing, some were just in a group, chit-chatting, doing whatever. And there was another group that were meeting in the dining hall and there was a lot of nice Christian music going on. So I said, as soon as he tells me that as soon as he gets to the campus, he was like, he was looking for me and he knew exactly where I would be. So he just sent one of the boys and be like, go to that dining hall, my son will be there, go get him for me. And he says he was so sure that is where I was going to be. And I'm like, how are you sure? But as I grew up, I began to understand that he knew that he has done his homework. He knew that he had done the things that he needed to do. So he knew that once I'm in college, more than likely, that was what I was going to do. And by God's grace, that's what I did.
Amen. Kudos to our parents.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I definitely love that story because it tells you about perseverance. Because when your parents don't give up, because sometimes that's the hardest part. It's like you think your child doesn't hear you, and you keep talking about the same thing over and over again. Have you have your morning devotion? Did you pray? You know, when they're going to sleep, did you pray? Like you're constantly saying the same thing over and over. They hear you.
Yeah.
They are hearing you, so don't give up. So that's what I want to encourage the parents also.
Yeah. So let's talk to our young people. We're going to talk to two different groups of people. Young people straight out of high school preparing for college. What are some things they should do? And then we'll also talk next about to older people who maybe have a college education and want to further it or didn't have the opportunity and now want to go to college. How should they prepare? So let's look at young people who are going to college. What are some things they should do to prepare themselves for college?
Okay. I think I should. No.
You think? Yeah, go ahead.
All right. It's a very exciting period. Reason being, you get a chance to charter a path. And one of the first opportunities you get to see your life getting in a certain direction as you're about to go to college. Depending on the high school that you went to, some of the high schools will prepare you really well for college. That is, they will introduce to you the tough classes. There will be that discipline. There will be that challenging classes. They have certain sort of forms of expectation of you that is almost to the standard of a college. So if you are lucky and you are in that kind of high school, kudos to you. Your transition more than likely will be a little bit smooth. And more than likely you go in there already knowing some of the things to expect, how to adjust your studying habits. And I want to pause here and encourage most of our parents that if your child is able to let them take some of these advanced classes, the AP classes, the honors classes, those classes are challenging enough that once they get into college, they will be able to smooth right into it. But there are some people, there is a very big gap. When I say there's a very big gap, they took normal classes and they had very stellar grades just because they liked the grades and they did not really challenge themselves. So whenever I meet, as a youth, I'm also a youth leader, by the way. Whenever I meet my young ones and they're telling me all the good grades, you have to probe further so that you can further advise them that, hey, you're excelling here, but let's challenge ourselves a little bit.
It's true.
So that by the time they leave from high school to college, number one, there will be assignments that they will have to do. Depending on the high school that you went to, maybe your teachers might be laxed. Or maybe your teachers, you might come from a home where your teachers might even complain to your parents and your parents will not do anything about it.
It's true.
So some people's, their foundation is not very strong at all by the time that they're going to college. So I've seen among our youth, and I'm talking about Church of Pentecost, the people that I deal with, I see people who were very lackadaisical when they were in high school and they get to college and there's a big flip in their thinking and all of a sudden they are doing really well. I don't know how those things, I've been asking them, hey, so what happened? They'll be like, oh, I finally got serious. So you want that thing to happen to your kids.
That's true.
That once they get to college, they begin to realize that, hey, I'm in a different place. All the old things are what? Gone. Let me quote from the Bible.
Yeah.
And now it's a new
Everything's
ball
new.
game.
Yes. It is your
I'm going to be taking classes with 5. Some of the classes, they are very big. And some of them, it's very unforgiving. It's like you have only 4 exams. And if you fail in one, your grades are dipping. So right from there, you have to realize and have a plan to succeed. The plan comes from you approaching each class and having a plan. You just cannot walk to a class and just go sit there. You have to know what you're walking into and have a plan of succeeding. Some of the plan might be you taking the time out to talk to people who have already taken those classes, or even have an idea about those teachers. So planning to succeed means that even my first year, the kind of classes I'll be taking, I'm going to talk to people who have already taken those classes and get an idea about what to expect. And even during the class selection process, there are some teachers you have to avoid. Yeah. So you have to take the time out. And there was one thing, when I was in college, I saw this guy, he always did well. And I approached him one time and be like, hey, what is your secret? He's like, I don't take any teacher. I make sure I know who exactly I'm taking and what other people are saying about that teacher before I even enter that classroom. And by the time I enter, I already know I have a plan to succeed. So that is what most people will have to realize, that the transition from high school, now it's a new slate. It's a new beginning. You could have been somebody who was doing really well in high school, but you get to college and you begin to flunk because it was a new time, a new season. You did not realize it, prepare for it, and now all of a sudden your grades are dipping and you have to take your time out to take yourself out of it. So prepare mentally, know that it's a new season, and also make sure that you have a plan to succeed in even right from day one. And with so doing, you go through college with ease.
That's good.
So with the advice to the adults who want to continue the education, education has no limits. You continue learning till the Lord calls you, unless you decide not to do anything else. For such a person who already has a first degree or is already an adult, one, you have to sit down and figure out, why do I want to get the education? Is it for a new job, a promotion, or and there's an option of just personal advancement. Just you're advancing yourself, open up your minds to other things or new things. And with that, there's the internet. You can research and actually find out schools and programs that they do, and then actually set up appointments and visit some of the schools and talk to counselors. You sit down with them and let them know that, hey, you are a working person, maybe you are working full-time, and you are thinking of pursuing this program. How would it be helpful to you? Because in my case, I was working full-time, so there was no way I could go to school with a master's degree full-time. And I took it at one course per semester.
Of course.
Yes, one course every semester, and it works.
It works.
And that's how. So you have to know where you are going and then seek advice. You get some from the internet, a few tidbits, and talk to other people, professionals who are already there in the schools, who've been made available to provide such advice. And as I said, you talk to other people who are if you're geared towards a profession, whether it will be helpful. Because in my case, even I've worked at the same job I used my son's age, over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Actually, they brought me to the country, but over 20 years. And the degree was good, but it's not, it's in the same field, electrical engineering, telecommunication, but it's not for any advancement. I say, but it's good to have it in your records, your CV, that you have a master's degree. And I'm sure it might have been taken into consideration during some times of retrenchment and so on and so forth. They look at all those. But it's helpful. So first you have to look at what you want to do with it. And it could be personal arrangement. Just you want to advance yourself.
That's good. Thank you.
To those adults, though, I want to caution here, is that there is tuition to be paid. So
Nothing
that's
is free.
true.
Nothing is free.
There's no free lunch.
So at that point in your life, you have to be very purposeful.
Yeah.
If you want for personal advancement, you want to make sure that the resources are set aside.
That's true.
So it's not at that age that you want to accumulate some more loans and add to your life. So like everything that you're saying, I agree perfectly. And at that point also, being very purposeful. Being very purposeful. Do you want to change careers? Do you want to get a pay increase? Or do you want to do something that will change the conditions of your family? Those are the things that you have to consider. But I just wanted to talk about the loan aspect so that we all consider.
And to that, in my case, I had my job paying for it.
Exactly.
So it helped. It helped a lot. Yeah.
If you are lucky. So
If you are lucky, yes.
Ask your, sometimes
Exactly.
you have to ask your job.
Employer, yeah.
Because they may
You
have,
have the
it, but if
benefits.
nobody asks,
Nope,
they
you
won't
wouldn't know.
volunteer for it. So moment of truth, if you want to go to school, ask your company if they will pay for you to go back to school. So that way they also benefit from your experience. So
How
thank
about
you.
young people? Young people, how do they prepare financially? Because your financially was okay. But let's think about young people. If there's a young person out there who's thinking about going to school, but
Young people,
is thinking about money
Exactly.
and how to finance it.
Because you know when you
What are the
want to go to
tips?
college and parents say,
Oh, I
have no
don't have money, so
Then
you
that
can't
moment
go.
you just put a block on the child's mind, like you can't go to college. So how do we prepare?
There are two sides that I like to approach this from two different sides.
Okay.
The first side is we are in a very great country. If you want to do well for yourself, there are definitely opportunities out there. The first opportunity that somebody wanting to go to college will experience is the numerous scholarships that is out there.
Of course.
It starts from the grant that even the government gives to every student. I'm sure most people don't know that there are grants that the government, the Pell Grant, what is it? America Opportunity Grants and all those kind of stuff. I think it's two of them. Lifetime credit and also the American Opportunity. We call that a HOPE. So those are two different things that everybody will get to have. But besides that, there are a lot, let me repeat, a lot of scholarship opportunities out there that most of our young people, they don't take the time and the energy to research into it. I always advise that you have to be so strategic with your undergrad education that if you are very strategic, you can go to undergrad almost for free. Yeah. And most of our young ones, I'm afraid to say that when we are deciding on the places to go to school, we don't think about the money aspect.
No, we
The
don't.
first on our list that I want to get so
Far
far
away from the parents.
that mommy cannot see me, daddy cannot. The only time they get to see me is when I come home, or the only time that they'll get to talk to me is on the phone.
Phone, yeah.
Trust me. I will tell you something also that maybe might change your mind. If that is your number one goal, please change it.
You have failed.
You failed. All right? You failed. These are words of wisdom. The people that catch it early, they avoid a lot of mistakes. I've seen people it's like you're going to walk into the wall and you have been advised, and they'll be like, I want to walk into it and experience it myself.
Ouch, it's painful.
Oh, and we like that ouch moment. And most people, their first choice, let me go far away. But that is not the goal.
No, it's not.
The goal is that if some of you, depending on the kind of home, and most of our parents can understand, if you have to stay in state, I always advise that if you're going out of state, it better be a good scholarship.
Sure.
That is taking you all the way from around the state area to go out there. Or better still, if you're going out of state, you might be going to a really prestigious school that that your parents are really going to be happy about.
Yeah.
But if not, really consider staying in state. Consider the money aspect. Basically, let that be one of your first things that would make you decide on which college to go to. That will at least open your mind up to be like, you know what, that is very important. Number two, as you want to go on, you also want to know that the monies that you are taking, at some point, taking it is very sweet, right?
You have to pay back.
You have to pay back.
With
And
interest.
most people, with interest.
Yes.
And most people, when they're in college and they get the refunds, let me talk to you guys, please. They spend it, even when they don't need it. And when I was in college, I saw some people take their refunds buying cars.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great for you to spend it. But the thing is, at some point, you're going to be paying with interest. God bless you if your choices were not good to land you in a very good job. You'll be among those who credit is messed up because they are not paying their student loans. So there are consequences. And the earlier, I think as parents, we should have educate ourselves about these things so that we can have real talk with our kids. So that is one aspect. That even if as parents we cannot support, we have to make sure that we have the right information for our kids so that they know that these choices now, even if you're lucky and you yourself have loans, you can just show it to them.
Yes.
Be like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with.
Student loans.
I'm still paying. So if you want to go the same route, at least look at mine and let it change your mind. And also from the parent standpoint, we have to have a plan that at least everybody have a worldview when it comes to this thing that I'm about to say. But every parent should at least have it in their plans to really help their kids at least obtain their first degree. At least. Most people have different worldviews, but I think as parents, that is one of the things, especially if your child has an aptitude to study and you see them very promising, please just do the best you can to, number one, steer them in a certain way so that they go to places where the tuition will not be as much, and also have a plan to really help them. And this thing that I'm talking about, it comes from you having a plan way earlier on. Some of us, we are not having kids, so the plan is, hey, I'll save some money, even if it's $50 out of every paycheck. By the time this kid is 18 years old, even if I cannot pay a chunk of his school fees, I can at least put substantial money down that my child will grow up knowing that daddy did not do me wrong, or daddy actually laid the foundations for me. And if they messed it up, they will blame themselves for it. Yeah, so let's have some of these plans in place. The 529 plans, I'm sure Elder can speak to them. And there are also different plans out there that I think at some point we can get the resource persons to come and talk about it.
And that's, yeah, that with the 529 plan, that's a plan I've invested in for my kids. And it's helpful. And as I said, if not if you are able, but make it a goal that you help your kid with the first degree. And the vehicle of helping is the saving. And the saving, the 529 plan, which are state plans, help a lot. So my older kid, he's now 21. Immediately he was born and the Social Security came, we applied and then started saving. And then we started with a smaller amount, increasing it every year, and the kids added, we increased the amount. So all the 4 kids, the savings going into an account for them. And it's not in my personal account that I can depend. Exactly. It's in a 529 plan that you can take. And fortunately, my son went to school with a scholarship. So that money is still there. I can roll it over to the other siblings or use it for something for him later, because that now they've made it flexible that if the kid has a scholarship, you can use it for something else if you stayed there. He had a scholarship. So that's one thing, especially parents that have young kids. It's very now you start in, you can start with $25. That's the minimum, a pay period or a month. I've forgotten, but that would be easy. 50 a month saving for the kids, and then when they are up at college time, you would have saved a lot. If God helps you, you still have your job, good paying job. You'll be helpful, and the kids would appreciate it. And that's one thing I'm advising, especially our community. I think the other communities do it, not the African community, but other communities, I don't know, but our goal is to help our kids finish their first degree without any debt. They'll come home, no debt. If they want to go to a second degree, then they start working, or then that's a different scenario. But the first degree, you help them achieve that, and then you would have done substantial part of your role as a parent.
You'll be forever grateful.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the things I really want to really encourage is that if you have opportunity, most times our kids here do not go to private school. They go to the government school where education is free. So that alone will encourage you to save. If your kids are going to private school, that's extra money that you are spending. So if you're watching Moment of Truth, just think about it. If your child is going to private school, that money that you're going to be spending, you're not spending that. So just think about investing in their college. But if they're going to private school, still please save, because if they get a good scholarship, fine. If not, you don't want them to finish high school in a private school and not get opportunity to go to college. That will not set them up for success. So please plan either way to set your children up at least for their first degree. And they will be appreciative of it.
Talking about the scholarships and the grants, can you tell us more about how do the young people out there get these grants and scholarships? What are they supposed to do?
Fortunately, there's a lot of resources out there. It starts from your school, but just that sometimes you have to write essays.
You have to.
Sometimes you have to write some letters.
You have to.
It's a requirement, actually.
So it's like they differentiate you from me.
There was one of the young people I was dealing with, and he was like, "Man, I'm so lazy writing this essay." I'm like, "Really? There's money out there, and you can't take the time to write an essay? It's amazing."
And
how some other things. How some other things are taking the attention of our kids that they don't even see some of these opportunities.
That's true.
So as parents, please, even if your kids don't see it for them.
That's true.
Yeah. Luckily, every year we get resources of different scholarships out there, and they send it to us. And sometimes I get them, I just forward it to the parents. Please, parents, take the effort and know about some of these things. And even sometimes take the time to go and talk to the school career counselor.
Yeah.
The information is out there, but if you don't seek for it, nobody will
find
tell
it.
you. Your congressmen have scholarships that they're
They
giving
do.
out.
They
Bill
do.
Gates have, Melinda Gates, they have
Gates have
funds.
Yep.
There's Rhodes Scholar. There are different things out there.
Yes.
The thing is, you have to just put yourself in a position. Just go to the school if your child is doing well, and if your child is doing well, and you know that your child, just know this information and be on their case about it. Spend the time. Sometimes just be like, hey, let's go to the library, and you write your essay. I'll be here, just reading. All those things are little things that as parents we can do to encourage them. And once you do those things, your kids might not know, but sometimes you have to raise your kids up psychologically. That is why I'm saying that sometimes you have to take them to the library and be like, write the essay, I'm here. If you are lucky and you're able to read through, just read through with them. And in so doing, you are putting them in a way that they're going to succeed. Some kids are driven. And if you have a child like that, I think half of your battle is won. And let's start right from the get-go. Today I was talking to my wife and I was like, one of the most important things that as parents we need to pray about is that our kids will listen to us. Because some of the kids, they just have their own worldview and they don't want to listen to nothing. So if you have a child like that, at least you'll be able to steer them in certain directions. And if they are driven, lucky you just get the information for them and give it to them and they'll follow up. And luckily, we have a lot of our young people who are also going to college with scholarships. And it's something that I'm seeing a lot of. So that's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good trend that is happening in our community. So I want to thank God for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
So as we're talking about expectations, so let's talk about fears and expectation. You guys both came from a very different perspective when you come to your college life. So what are some of the fears that you had when you started college, and what were some of your expectations, and how was it like when you got there? Was it real, or was it the reality did not meet your expectation?
Well, with expectations, the first one is that going to college, as you mentioned in one of the points, that freedom. You have freedom, but with freedom comes responsibilities and privileges. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, sleep whatever time you want to sleep, do whatever you want to do. By the end of it all, you have to produce results. And that's one of the shocks that gets you, I think, the first year. And if you are lucky, you can reorganize yourself immediately and then bring your mind back to the education. So that's one, the independence. How to channel it positively, and if you channel it positively, that's a good thing. And it's not easy in college. It's not easy. And I think back in Ghana, since I had my high school in Ghana, you start the sixth form. There's independent learning. And I remember one time, and I went to high school, the sixth form in Wenchi. That's middle of the country somewhere, and you be at night with a lantern studying, because at 10 o'clock they shut off the lights, the electricity, and you be studying. And if you are not focused, you can't do that. And one thing I remember about parents, my dad didn't go higher education. He had some, I think, diploma as a public servant. But after I went all the way there and the results came, and I think it came around getting to Christmas, and he had a gift for me. And I remember that very, very much. And I knew that it wasn't a wasted effort going all the way there. And I went to 1 to 5 in Kumasi too. After that, we will talk about it. We went to Kumasi, but I went further. But what I'm saying is that, the independence, but you have to be channeled well, then it's tough. But if you are lucky, the high school prepares you. But as I'm saying, I think over here, if you are not conscious of it, you'll be disappointed. You get to college and everything will become a maze. But back home, if you're successful in at that time, the sixth form, because there's a lot of independent learning. You have to catch up and then be on time in everything and then be able to write your exam, do your lab. And it was challenging. It was challenging. I remember we had to import a teacher. We didn't have a chemistry teacher. We had to bring a teacher every other week from another school to come and teach us and take us through things. But God is so fortunate we were able to pass through. But that's what the challenges ahead. It's not easy. But we're able to overcome it, and the independence. You have to channel it appropriately.
I think
Fears and expectations.
fears. One of my fears was transitioning from Ghana and starting my college education here. But I also had a feeling that I believed in the Ghana system, so I just had a weird feeling that the Ghana system was harder. So once I got here, it proved to be true, especially for my first degree. Most of the foundations were kind of strong in Ghana, so you come and the work ethic was even stronger because, as my elder was saying, you have to persevere through a lot, hours of studying. So by the time you get here, it was not so much of a shock. The transition, though, I'd like to talk about is when I was transitioning from my first degree to my doctorate degree. That was quite a challenge in the sense that now you are going to a higher level of education and you don't know what exactly to expect. So I saw myself struggling right when I first began, but I also saw opportunities to, number one, tap into resources of my fellow friends. That is why sometimes the first people that your first criteria or the first kind of friends that you make in college should be people that will lead you somewhere. You have to know what you're expecting out of every friendship. Some of them, you go to our young ones, they go to college and they want to join fraternities, sororities, and they are looking for different sort of relevance in the wrong places that will not lead them anywhere. So the first thing I sought for is if this person is really smart.
Yep.
You're gonna be my friend.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or
Yeah.
I'm choosing you.
And one thing I'll be looking for from these people is how is their approach towards class? How is their approach towards studying? And it was one of those things that one person identified some good qualities from, and I was like, maybe I should try this. This person makes sure they come to class, and they always sat in front of the class. And when I first got into, it always didn't matter to me where I sat. But I realized that this person always sits in front. And the reason being, he's avoiding everything else.
Distraction.
I'm like, okay, that's something good to learn. The next thing also is make sure you get the right notes right when you're in class. Because there are different students that you come across. There will be the students where they are not able to catch a whole lot during the class, and basically they've wasted a lot of efforts. And there will be a student where they come, they focus, they make good notes, and by the time they go to prepare for their exams, they already have the materials to go with. So I realized that I didn't really fall within the people who are really able to pay the maximum attention to get the good notes, but at least I paid some form of attention. So I realized that maybe I need to add recording of the lectures to my practice. So what I'll do is whatever slides that I had, right after class, I'll go and I'll listen. After taking my notes, I'll listen to the lecture again and make sure that I catch everything that I missed. And that will be what I'll be studying for my exams. And once I saw that this formula worked for me, that was what I used, and it became a breeze. So at some point, some people, they might find it hard to find their niche or how to prepare. That is why some people will be very smart in high school, they'll go to college, and even though they are smart, but they are not seeing the way things go. It's not because you are not still smart, because you have not found the right strategy or the way to approach that very course. So once I found mine, it was success all the way from that time. So try to identify, be quick to learn, be quick to pick up on things that people are doing and they are succeeding at. And if you have that approach towards life, there will be so many challenges that will come your way, but you have the right mentality to face most of them.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I like the way that you talk about finding the approach, because we are talking, if you just join a program, we're talking about college, we're talking many plans. There are many plans that one has to take. And if things doesn't work, figure out which one works for you. Because most times, I personally like to come to class. I will not miss a class. Because I figure when I get there, I will hear something But rewriting my notes helps me. So whatever helps you is definitely important for you to apply that. So
Yes. So before we run up, because our time is fast spent, we have so much to talk about. But let's talk about Christian life on campus. What advice do you have for young people who are going on campus? How can they stay connected to their faith while on campus? What are some things they need to do, some things they need to avoid, just to help them connect and stay connected to their Christian values on campus?
I think one thing that as parents we can help them with, one, calling them often. And then in the calling, praying with them. The last time we prayed with my son, well, this past Saturday, they had a game in New York. An hour before the game, we called him, his mom and I and the other siblings on the phone, and we prayed. And when he's going to write an exam, he tells us beforehand, and then we call him, and then we pray. So the parents also calling them and praying with them keeps their mind on things that are pure, things that are on good report. That because they know they have the support, the spiritual support at home. So it helps them. And then one thing that my wife was the one who initially told my son that when he goes to school, find a Christian campus ministry, join, be part of it, and then go around it. And then one day he was going back to school, and among his files, I think when you go to the first year, you introduce yourself. And then I saw the paper that he had written. And I saw the paper, I came and told them I was so excited. Writing that I'm a believer in Christ, I attend the Church of Pentecost, and all these things I'm saving. When I read it, actually, I had goose pimples. Because I haven't heard it from him, but seeing it on paper, that's something that he had written. And I just praying that it's part of his life as he's growing up. He would get involved with things that are it's in Christian circles. Whenever we close from church, when we're going home, we call him in the car with what they call it, Bluetooth, and then we all will be talking to him that they just came in from church and this is what they talked about in church. So it helps bring their mind on Christ, stay their mind on Christ, even if there are no other support on campus to help him with. And it's a Catholic school day, so they go to mass, and then some go to mass and all those things. But we make sure that we always call them him, and then keep his mind on Christ in our discussion and everything.
I like that. I like what our elder said. That is one thing that us from home we can really do. And if the goal is that our young men that go to school are really driven and they really understand their foundations. And when they go, they will not depart from it. And as a matter of fact, you realize that on college, and I've been through all of them, okay, there's a lot of time that these young people have. So I want to encourage, or one thing that will also help you keep your faith is at least finding the right friends and actually be like, you know what, one day, maybe I'll just gather these friends and we all discuss the Word of God. That in that way you are putting whatever you know into practice, and you are setting the tone. Tone setting is very important. The first things that you do when you go to college, set the tone.
First impressions.
The first impression counts. If your friends come and they want to invite you to a party and you be like, oh yeah, let's go, you've lost at setting the tone. So right from day one, let them know you're a believer of Christ. And if they're going to party, the first thing you'll be like, I'm not going. The next thing that they'll be hearing from you, guys, I want us to start a Bible study. Just 2 minutes, 2 hours of ours. And I realized that this don't take nothing away from our young man, because out there's so much time that they can use to do other things. One other time I was into a man of God, and he was like, how could you have been in a medical school and you still was running a campus ministry? And he was like, yeah, everybody, it wasn't like people did what was really important to them. So I would recommend that the values that you have, which will be so important to you, that you start something and be like, just once in a week, the people will know and they will begin to identify you as that Christian guy. They will not come to you with their nonsense and their parties, they will not bother you with it. And by so doing, you realize that you are even growing in the Lord yourself. The best way to learn something is to teach it.
Yep.
All right. So if you are studying this Bible and you're teaching it to somebody else, trust me, now you really know it. That is I mean, research has proven it. So if you're able to teach something, that means you really understand it. So I want to throw this challenge to all our young people out there, Pentecost member. If you are going to out there to college, you first then set the tone, let people know that you're a Christian, and you don't go about broadcasting it. By your deeds to be identified. And once it's identified, begin to, number one, link up with other church members. Link up with other church members. That is, if you are a Maryland member, you find yourself in Towson, and there is another member from Virginia somewhere. If you identify them, and the church is doing a lot of things to provide the avenue so that there will be all these kind of networks going on. Reach out to them and just be like, hey, once in a week, let's just meet and talk about God. You are meeting your own friends of the same faith. And number two, you'll be teaching each other of the things that edify. And by so doing, nobody will come to you with their unrighteous beliefs. And number two, you are strengthening each other. Because the Bible says that as iron strengthens iron, so shall a man strengthen the countenance of his fellow brother. So you have a group that can strengthen each other. And you go through college with ease. I always saw myself as a Christian. So everywhere that I found myself, that was one of the first things I did. Right from my days from VCU, we started a pencil over there. I went on, even in VCU, we were also running a campus ministry in Lynchburg. Wow. And we had started a pencil there too. Up to now, I think it's still around. And even I got to pharmacy school, and it's like, I can now relax. I was like, nope. I'm starting a Christian student group. And we started it, and up to now, it's still in that school. Wow. So everywhere that I realized that I was carrying the God that had been instilled in me. And it served me well. And God will never look at you serving Him and not reward you the right way. So I want to recommend this to all our young people. And even to the alumni also, which now I find myself to be. The passion is so strong that some of my members in Adonai, I realized that they go to Coppin. And I was like, hey, you guys, you don't come to church on Wednesdays, you don't come to church on Fridays. Don't worry, I'll come to you. So I started going to them on Coppin. I think school just started, and even I'd forgotten that school had reopened, and one of the guys texted me and be like, hey, are you coming? I was like, I'm so sorry, I'll be coming. So by God's grace, next week we are starting. So this is an opportunity I want to throw to the alumni who are still passionate with the passion of God burning all through them. These are opportunities that you can reach out when our young people go to school and you have the time. One day in a week, devote it and just visit them on campus, have Bible study with them. By so doing, you are winning souls for Christ. You are impacting the next generation, and who knows? God will watch this, and He will take care of your kids too.
Correct.
Amen.
Amen.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I'm very
I think we talked so much.
about it.
We're
That's
good.
good.
That's
Yeah.
why we're
It's really
here.
good
That's why we're
information. So
here.
this is Moment of Truth. You know, we really want to have the alumni really go back to the campuses and start the campus ministry, and definitely start the Pensa ministry, because, you know, around Maryland, we really don't have a strong campus ministry. We have a lot of students that are part of the universities, but we don't have a strong campus ministry. So our time is really fast spent, and we really want to just wrap it up. So if there's a few words you want to share, a few shout-outs you want to share to our guests.
The letter I want to add towards that, education is nothing to be toyed with. It's expensive. It's valuable. That's what I want to say. It's valuable. It's an valuable resource that, as a Christian, besides your faith in Christ, as a follower of Christ, it's something that you should invest in. And as parents, you have to make a conscious effort to prepare your kids, preparing financially for them and preparing them too in their studies, in everything that they need to attain a college education. Though the Lord might take them somewhere else in a different field, but it will open up their mind so much that it's easy to convince, it's easy to evangelize for people. And as I mentioned, there are so many programs on campuses, ministries that are there that will help you and support you to stay close to Christ when you are in college.
Thank you so much. Deacon Kello.
I'll just keep it short this time. Just my only advice is make hay while the sun shines. Remember your Creator in your days of evil. Yesterday, my wife was discussing this with me. And the reason why the Bible said that, when you read it very further, it was talking about all the challenges that will come to you as you're growing older. The parts of your body that will not begin to function right.
True.
The things that you really want the strength to do that you will not be able to do. That was why God was saying that, remember your Creator whilst you're still young. And I was saying make hay while the sun shines means that this time of life that you have to acquire all the education, don't miss that opportunity. Because there will be a time that it will not be as easy getting yourself educated. And also, in these times also, let's make sure that we are remembering our Christ, our
Amen.
Lord, our Savior.
Amen.
And by so doing, God will definitely reward you and reward your labor. Amen.
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 Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So we've come to the end of our program tonight, and we've been so blessed by Deacon Caleb and Elder Appiah. And for you young ones out there who last week you told us that you would like to have Pensa on your campuses, you have the tip now. Start with a Bible study, and if you're an alumni, think about how you can also help with the campus ministry. Thanks so much to Ashon Collections for this program. Ashon Collections is a supply of electronics and consumer product. Contact is 0243 548 925 or 0276 380091. Also, we thank our producer, Elder Richard Esfifi, and the technicians. We are also thankful for Lean On Foundation and Ministries. Thanks also to Delatech, where you can get all your Linus training. Over to you.
I also want to talk about the one-day youth camp that is coming up September 21st. It's going to be here in the Bediako Memorial Temple. The address is 15241 Old Columbia Pike, Burtonsville, Maryland, and is the Washington region. So it's the whole region. They're going to meet here for one day, September 21st. It's going to start from 10 to 6, and that our title is Step Up to Possess. So come and be part of it. And we also want to thank our national head, Apostle Marco, our regional head, Apostle Assembler, and of course, our district pastor, Pastor Evans Boyton. So thank you for watching, thank you for being part of it, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for inviting us.
And happy anniversary.
Thank
Happy
you.
anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So much.
Until same time next week.
Yes.
Bye.